Howdy folks, it's Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician here, and today we're working on a 2010-2011 Nissan Cube Krom. Krom, the god of war. Anyways, so what we need to do to this Nissan Cube is change out the spark plugs and the electronic coils. In order to gain access to the spark plugs and the electronic coils, as you can see, they sit underneath the upper intake. So we're gonna have to remove the upper intake. I'm gonna go ahead and start, like I always do, on one side of the engine, which is gonna be the driver's side, and like a typewriter, work my way over to the driver's side, making sure I get all my electrical connections, nuts and bolts, all that other stuff disconnected. Now, because I don't want to lose any coolant, and in order to move this, we either A, need to disconnect the throttle body from the upper intake, or B, just remove it all together. I'm actually not going to fully remove it from the engine, or in other words, I'm not going to like take it and then take it out, because in order to do so, I would either A, have to disconnect the throttle body, which means my customer would need a new O-ring gasket in here, or in order to leave the throttle body on there, I would have to disconnect the two coolant lines that run to the throttle body. And with this vehicle taking a specific coolant that's not actually all that cheap, we want to be able to save as much as we can and not have to disconnect the coolant line. So I'm simply just going to disconnect the upper intake and basically lift it up so I can have access here, and you'll be able to see how that works in this video. Alrighty then. So the first thing you want to do, because we're going to be messing with the electronic throttle body and a few other things, electronic coils on this vehicle, go ahead and disconnect the negative battery cable so that your battery is disconnected. Set that aside. Now I'm basically going to get in here, disconnect a few other things, air breathers and whatnot, just to get it out of the way so I can have more room to work and see what I'm doing. Alright, so I got a vacuum hose I want to get back at. It's back in here. And I'm going to use a pair of angled needle nose. Go ahead and set that out of the way. Now I'm going to need an 8mm socket to go ahead and get my breather tube off and out of the way as well. Alright, so you use 8mm to get these brackets off. Not much to pulling this guy off and getting him out of the way. And just for safety reasons, since you're going to be moving this around, go ahead and unplug your throttle body. You're going to find that back here. You're also going to find that there's not much room to work around here. That's alright, just take your time with it. You should be good. Alright, so now that we got that disconnected, let's go ahead and start working on disconnecting our intake. We're going to pull our evap line. Alright, now your bolts for your intake, you're going to have a bracket bolt here, then you're going to have 1, 2, 3 along the front, and then you're just going to kind of work your way from there. These are going to be 10 millimeter, and because of the angle that that's at, it's going to be a little hard to get at, so I'll show you what I'm going to use. Alright, so to get down in here, I'm going to go ahead and pull out my oil dipstick. I'm going to use a swivel socket so I can get the angle that I need to get down in there. There you go. Number 2. And now for your third one, you're going to want to get this electrical line out of the way. It's going to be hard to get down in there with that in the way. As you can see, your third bolt is right here where my finger's at. So let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Alrighty then. And as you can see, I just used a pair of angle pliers. I got in here where the clip was at, squeezed it, and then I moved my electrical line out of the way, and now I can get my socket, my swivel socket down in there to gain access to that mounting bolt. Now for this one, because it's in a weird place, I'm just going to get it loose. I'm going to take it the rest of the way off of my fingers. I don't want to drop it down inside of the engine or anything like that. Alright, now we're in good shape there. So now I'm going to go after my next bolt, and that's going to be my bolt for my mounting bracket that basically just keeps this steady on the engine. Alright, I'm going to use a 12 millimeter ratcheting to get back here. It looks like we need a second 12 millimeter, just 1 second. Alrighty, so you're going to want 2 sockets, 2 wrenches, one to hold one side, one to loosen the other. And honestly, you might just want to go ahead and remove this whole bracket anyways. Just get it out of your way. So you're going to have a 10mm down in there, as you can see. Pull that off. And then you want to start running through all your checks and balances and make sure you got everything before you go to pulling off. Go ahead and remove your brackets that hold your engine cover on, because you still need to gain access to some more bolts up front here. You know what? Your swivel socket's going to be too fat to fit in there, so I'm going to show you what I'm going to use next. So now I'm just going to use a swivel extension with a 10mm socket. And that will allow me to get way down in here, if the camera can show you. Right there. You see those bolts? So you're going to want to get those out as well. And again, be careful not to drop anything down in the engine or the engine compartment. Go ahead and grab your bolts. Alrighty. Now, something Nissan is well known for is putting hidden brackets on the back of their intakes. This one doesn't seem to have that issue. And it does look like I'm going to need to Does look like I've got a hidden bracket back here. It's good that you can watch me struggle with this. I do this every day for a living, and sometimes even we struggle on the professional level. Okay, so to get back in here, let's see if I can get you some. So back in here, there's a bracket, and I really didn't want to have to take this throttle body off, but if it's just a rubber O-ring in there, we don't have to necessarily worry about replacing the gasket. So instead of fully disconnecting it, again, I'm going to go ahead and leave my coolant lines connected to it, and just go ahead and take it off and move it to the side. Alrighty, so you've got 4mm bolts, 4 8mm bolts. That's what your bolts are going to look like. And there you go. There's your throttle body. Now then, I'm going to show you something here. So the throttle body gasket is an O-ring, as you can see right here. So long as you don't mess with it, pull it out, tear it, or do anything like that, you're fine. You don't necessarily have to replace it. If you're going to be in here anyways, it might be a good idea just to do it, but no worries. Now, the reason why you have to get this throttle body out of the way is because here's your final mounting bolt. It's going to be right down here where my finger is. Kind of see it right there, and that's what's going to allow you to get your upper intake off of here. So to save the coolant, again, I didn't fully disconnect the throttle body. I just removed it from the upper intake, left my coolant lines connected, and I'm just going to set it out of the way. Another thing you need to avoid doing, because this is an electronic throttle body, is you need to avoid touching the flap inside of here. You need to avoid moving it at all costs. Alright, so just move your throttle body out of the way. Get your 10mm down inside of here. And disconnect the famous hidden bracket Like I said, Nissan likes to put hidden brackets on the back of their intakes. And again, avoid touching the flap or moving it, and you will be all right. Now we can safely pull off our upper intake, and again, I'm not going to fully disconnect it. Well, I might as well. So I'm going to go ahead here. Wham. And there you go. Each one of these has an O-ring. And as long as you don't mess with those O-rings, don't worry about replacing them. You're pretty good. At 100,000 miles, you're in good shape. So now, that gives us access to our electronic coils. And at this point, it's just a matter of unplugging and pulling them out. There you go. Those are going to be 10 millimeters. Twist it a little bit and it should come right on out. Now we just need to get down in there and get our spark plugs out. Alright, so last but not least, start pulling plugs. Then, I've got the wrong spark plug socket. It's definitely not a 5/8. Alright, so you want a 9/16 socket in order to get down in here to these plugs. Be careful with them. They're long and skinny. You really don't want to break one off in there. If you can do it by hand, that's even better. Alright, so grab you a long pair of needle nose, a magnet, whatever is handy. Reach down in and grab these plugs. I'll tell you something, these are definitely 100,000 mile plugs. Time to change them. But the color on them and stuff, that's okay. They're worn pretty decently. There's no oil or anything like that. That's what a decently worn plug looks like. You can see the tip of it in there is burnt. Now, I've seen some people let them go so long so that it no longer has a tip in there. That's not a good thing to do. That's probably the best one out of all of them. So there you go, folks. That's going to end this video. Show you how to break down your Nissan Cube Krom to go ahead and change out your spark plugs and your plug over coils, also known as electronic coils. Just take your time with it. It's not a huge big deal. A few bolts to take apart. Make sure you pay attention to everything. Don't go to pulling and yanking stuff off. Remember, like I said, Nissan likes to hide brackets back behind their intakes, and in order to get to this one, we did have to disconnect the throttle body. But to save the customer coolant so they don't have to go buy some, we didn't fully disconnect it from the engine. I left the coolant lines together, just moved it aside. Remember, because it's an electronic throttle body, do not touch the flap. Do not let the flap move. So long as you're there, you're good. And as far as the O-rings go, they're not gaskets, they're O-rings. So leave the O-rings alone. Don't touch them, don't pull them out. You'll be good to put it all back together and save you that money as well. But if you're going to be in here, you might just want to go ahead and replace them anyways. That's totally up to you. Alright everybody, well this is Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician. Thanks for hanging out and watching and learning. Please like, subscribe, and share the knowledge. If you have any questions or comments, get at me. I've been known to trade emails. I've even been known to trade phone numbers, walk people through procedures, all that other good stuff. I really appreciate your support, and I am signing off.